Welcome to the Chaotic Banter podcast. If this is your first time listening, then we welcome you. I'm here with my best friend, Kevin.
That's me. Hello.
And what we do on here is we basically just discuss things that we really love, like comic books, movies, anime, all sorts of things like that. And today we're going to be reviewing Joker.
Yeah, man. Yeah. For the first, let's say few minutes of the video, the first portion of this video, we're gonna keep it spoiler free, which we usually never do, but we're gonna try this format. And we'll let you know when we'll start talking about spoilers, and I'll have the timestamp down below and also on the screen.
Yep. Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, was released on October 4th, 2019. However, the premiere was actually on the 3rd, which was a Thursday showing, and that's the one that I went to. Kevin, I believe you went to the Saturday one?
Yeah, I went to the Saturday one.
Joker is about Joker. If you're a Batman fan like me and Kevin, then you obviously know who this character is. He's been a staple of comic book villains, probably the most iconic you can argue for the last almost nearly century. And going into this movie, when the movie was announced a few years ago, the main thing that people asked was, will a standalone Joker movie even work? So now, the year before 2019, we actually had a standalone movie featuring a comic book villain named Venom. However, that movie was, it was kind of, but if I'm being honest, it was kind of horrible.
Yeah. All right. Our review is still a work in progress on that one.
Oh yeah, it'll come out sometime in a million years, but
yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so Venom, the script and stuff was really poor. It had a lot of plot holes and stuff like that, but it was our first look at what a villain-centric movie would be like. And the story with that movie, when it was supposed to be rated R, but at the last minute, the studio kind of got greedy, and they changed it to PG-13, that it would get more showing, and therefore a lot of it was censored. The violence and blood, and me personally, I feel like that kind of took away a lot of villain, and because as you know, Venom. God, did I just say Venom?
Yeah, Venom.
Yeah, so Venom, he's also one of Spider-Man's rogues, and in the comics, he's very brutal. He's very bloody. So that kind of took away from the movie a little bit. But the thing with Venom is this portrayal of the villain on live action, they actually kind of portrayed him as an anti-hero. So even though it was our first look at a villain movie, he wasn't really a villain to say. He was kind of like an anti-hero, right?
Yeah.
So with the Joker, this was our first actual look at a hard R rating movie featuring an iconic villain like the Joker. And obviously that brought very high expectations, specifically in the geek community. Kevin, tell me about what you thought when you first heard that they were making a Joker movie.
I was one of the few people that actually was really excited about hearing that, because everybody loves a Joker, and then also in the comics he has 20 different origin stories. So when they're gonna explain that, they're gonna go through his actual their own version of his origin and his descent into madness. For me, it's always interesting to see a fresh new take on Joker's origin, because new writers, they have a lot of interesting ideas, and especially when it comes to comics. So it's always fresh to see something new and unique come on screen.
Correct. And like you were saying, when it comes to the comics, Joker does have a multitude of origins per se, but the most prominent one that sticks out to most comic readers is the Killing Joke, which was written by Alan Moore in the 80s. It's actually a really fantastic story, very, very dark. But other than that, you don't really know much about his past. And if you look at Heath Ledger's Joker, which a lot of people point to as the best live action interpretation of the character, in the movie, Christopher Nolan kind of played around with this, and every time he told someone about his past, it was always something different, So it was kind of cool. He kind of played around with that idea of he doesn't have one specific origin, or it's kind of left for the viewers to figure out what really happened, or he's kind of just like an engine of chaos to say, and that's kind of like the main thing that a lot of fans were kind of discussing whenever the movie was announced was, well, do we really need a Joker origin? The best thing Joker is the fact that no one knows his past. No one knows what his past is. So that's kind of what makes the character interesting, is the mystery of that. And going into this movie, like Kevin was saying, me personally, I was actually looking forward to it. I was very excited because I just love it whenever DC takes its movies kind of seriously and going with the R rating and stuff. I mean, it was clear that the studio was doing that, so I was really interested to see, like, wow, like they're really gonna go all out with it, so let's see what they got. I went to go see Joker on Thursday, and Kevin actually went to go see it on Saturday. But Kevin, with all the anticipation and the high expectations surrounding this film, what was your first thought once the credits rolled on Saturday night?
My thoughts were, honestly, I was blown away. Like, this is an amazing film. The first thing, like, I went with two of my other friends, and the first thing we all did right when the lights turned off in the movie theater and the credits started rolling, we looked at each other and we all had like a big smile on our faces. We all just nodded to each other because you
gotta insert that Family Guy meme, please.
We all just knew, like, this is a amazing film. Joaquin Phoenix did like a fantastic job because it was just phenomenal. His acting and portrayal of the character is just its own entity. He literally, like, he is the Joker in this film.
Yeah, like, I totally agree. He really, really took hold of the character, and he really made it his own, man. Like people always say, there's no comparing Heath Ledger to anybody else, but I think the awesome thing about a lot of the Joker interpretations that we've gotten in live action is that each of them is kind of unique in their own way. Like Jack Nicholson back in the 80s, like, I really like his portrayal a lot. You kind of get to see more of a gangster type of Joker, I guess, a mafia boss. But, I can't really compare his to Heath Ledger's because it's kind of different. They're both good and perfect in their own respectable manner. So with this one, I wasn't really trying to compare him to Heath Ledger. I was like, all right, let's see what he does. It's going to be something new. And like Kevin said, I was blown away. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix, man, people say that he picks and chooses his movies based on the scripts. So it's rare whenever he signs on for something bad. Like, if he sees something in the script, then he'll sign on. And, you can clearly see what he saw in this movie because, man, he did a phenomenal job. And I honestly think it will be a shame if he's not at least nominated for an Oscar come Oscar season.
Yeah, come on, like, definitely, like, he has to be nominated for Best Actor for like the next Oscars, because it's not even just the acting's real, like, phenomenal in this film, but the music is, the soundtrack of this movie is so emotional. Like, the impact of every scene, it really just enhances what you're supposed to feel in this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. And credit to the music composer. I can't say that name. I'm not gonna butcher it. I'm not even gonna give it a try.
I'll just put it up there. I'll just show you guys on the screen.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, they did a phenomenal job with the music. I mean, it was just haunting, and I feel like it really fit the gritty atmosphere of Gotham, and it really fit the movie so well. It was haunting and dark, and like you said, it almost gave you chills, like in certain scenes. Well, when the movie, going back a few weeks ago, when the movie first premiered at the Venice Film Festival, it actually won the Golden Lion Award, which is the top prize given to the best film there. So once that happened, everyone was like, wow. And people were asking, is it really that good? Because I guess at the Venice Film Festival, it's kind of composed of more artsy films, you could say. Kevin, you probably know more about this. I mean, you live not too far away from that place.
I actually had some people from my school, they actually went and saw it when it first came out at the Venice Film Festival. They saw it on August 31st because that's when it premiered here. I think. Wait, was that right? I don't know. Did you say a different date? Because I don't know.
I didn't even say the date. I didn't even say the date.
Okay, yeah, August 31st. And the people I was talking to, they said it was just like ever since that, like it was what the fuck am I saying? Okay, anyways. When I talk to them, they're saying that yes, this film is really good. Like you have to watch it when it comes out. And everybody kept watching it, and because it came out the 3rd here, and then I had a lot of friends that watched it Thursday, and then some friends that watched it Friday, and I'm just like, oh, I have to watch this film. And I did, and it's 100% worth it. I know it should deserve like a lot of categories for Oscars. The movie is 2 hours and 2 minutes long, which I think is a really good length for this film, because every scene in this film has a purpose. There's no like wasted filler in this. Every single like line and scene that occurs is for a progression of the plot or the character.
Oh yeah, most definitely. When it comes to films, movies, television, anything, the script is the most important part, because if you have a good script, it's meaningless if it's not executed well.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, I can say like the script was executed very well. Like Kevin said, going into this movie, I definitely recommend watching it, but you also kind of have to figure out what kind of moviegoer you are, because if you're someone who doesn't really like slow burns, then you might get a little restless, with the first two acts of this film, because that's basically what it is. It's a character study, It really examines Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, and he's the central focus of the entire film, and it really focuses on his psychology, and it really looks at what makes him go mad. And the cool thing I noticed is that I heard a lot of other people talking about is that he's literally on screen for nearly every scene in the entire film.
Yeah.
So this is his film, and like Kevin said, every scene that you watch is integral to everything you're watching is just building up and building up. And man, let me just tell you, those last 45 minutes are insane. The tension of the builds up, and it's like, I feel like it was definitely worth the payoff.
And also, like with his character, he, from the beginning of the film to the very end of the film, it's a completely different person.
Oh yeah, like it's crazy because you really get to see him transform, and just in his mannerisms and the way he speaks, the way he presents himself from the very beginning of the film to the very last scene, completely different person.
Yeah.
And they just did such a good job. They did such a phenomenal job of writing it and just directing it. And Joaquin Phoenix, man, I mean, I'm telling you, like, he's the reason why this movie is so successful. Yeah, and real quick, I just like to share that, well, my job, I actually work in a mental health facility. I help take care of people that are dealing with substance abuse, mental health issues. So I really looked at this movie through a different lens from other people, I guess you could say. And I really did appreciate just how real this movie treated, mental health. I mean, it was a dark and compelling origin story, and it centered on Joker, but it was a painfully honest and almost at times uncomfortable portrayal of mental illness and the role that society plays in it. And working with people like that every day and stuff like that, and learning about their history and stuff, you really do begin to understand like just how much like the past plays into the present, like traumatic events that happen in their lives. It's a direct ramification of what they are now. You know what I mean? Like it really does like affect who they are, especially if they don't get the help they need. And another thing is, living here in Oklahoma, the budget and stuff like that for the mental health institute that I work at is not the best. It's nothing compared to states like Texas, where they give a lot more money to mental health institutes and stuff like that. So I can understand, you know, where the movie was trying to go with that, because that's actually one of the themes that the movie explores is, well, you know, like how much does society really care about mental health? You know, like, I mean,
Hmm.
when they take away funding for things like that and put it towards other things like, you know, re-elections, things like that. I mean, how much do they really care? You know what I mean? And this is the spoiler-free portion, so we'll get to that and explain it a little more thoroughly here in a little bit. But just like I said, just watching it from that background and just kind of like looking at it through those lenses, I really did appreciate the way that Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix approached this role. And this isn't really a spoiler, but one thing that I found very genius about Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal is just the fact that his laugh is actually a real mental health condition. When he laughs, it actually hurts him.
Hmm.
So as you're watching the film, sometimes you can see him laugh and just grab onto his chest, and he's trying to stop himself. It's hurting him, but he's gonna keeps laughing. You know, and I guess this happens in situations where he's nervous. He's nervous and just
Hmm.
starts laughing uncontrollably. And I just thought that was I just thought that was freaking genius, man. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that in a Joker story where they actually made it like a real condition, you know,
Yes,
like
yes.
laughter. And I mean, I just thought that was genius, man. And it was just one of the many aspects that made this film so special, so brilliant. Kevin,
Hmm.
what do you think of the character?
The characters in the film.
Yeah, you know, there's not very many characters in this film, but I feel
Mhm.
like they all play their part. What do you think?
Um, yeah, they all played their part in progressing like Arthur's character to the Joker. You, especially the mother. The mother is a very very important character in this whole movie, and you kind of see like, I can't really talk about spoilers right now, but you can tell there's something little like that she has, like, she's old, she's kind of like in denial a little bit, and then Arthur's talking to her about it and stuff, and then you see why she acts the way she acts, and then how that actually affects Arthur. His coworkers too. He has some relationships, some friends from his like clown job that you see in the trailers and everything, and there's some scenes with them that have some impact to his character also, and you also see who's actually genuinely like nice to him and everything. And then there's Robert De Niro's character, who is Bill Murray. Wait, no, that's wrong. Let me say that again. Okay. And then there's Robert De Niro's character, who plays Murray on the late night talk show host, the late night talk show that portrays in the movie and everything. And he's not really in the movie that much, but the scenes, like you see in the trailer, he shows how his first stand-up was kind of like he was making fun of him and everything. And then later down the road, when you see in the trailer also, he like invites him on his show. Those two interactions of his character are big steps for Arthur's psychology, or is whenever time he pops up on the screen. So watch out for that. What else?
Oh yeah,
The lady, the girlfriend in the trailers that you see,
Lazi D.
she's not really in the movie that much, but there's a reason for that, and that part was like, wow, okay. I can't say it, but there's a lot of things you can't really say about this film. But yeah, that's they're all pretty good.
And so he also kind of forgot to mention yeah, I definitely agree with you. And you know, he also forgot to mention that the Waynes are also
Oh yeah,
movie.
you're right.
And I'll be honest with you, they're actually in this movie a little more than what I expected going into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think that, and Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, I think that he served the story well in the same way that Robert De Niro's character did. He was very integral to to Arthur Fleck's psychological arc and transformation into the Joker. And I just think that every scene, like Kevin said earlier, every scene in this movie is very important to who he is and what he's become. And you get hints and signs that maybe something's off, or maybe he's like a ticking time bomb getting ready to explode. And when that time comes, I mean, there's no stopping.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it was brilliantly directed. It was brilliantly executed and portrayed. It was just something really, 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 really unique and refreshing that I think we desperately did need, especially regarding the comic genre. Some people, for some reason, they don't want to call this a comic book movie because it's, but I mean, by all means, it is a comic book movie. And I think it's really good for that genre because it shows that it kind of shows other people a little bit of the stories that people like Kevin and I have been reading for years. Comic books are a medium capable of showcasing, some very intimate, dark, and realistic stories. And I think with the Joker, it really accomplished that.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me like, it was kind of very real. It was realistic and gritty. It had a really realistic and gritty, sometimes uncomfortable feel to it. It kind of reminded me of other comic book movies like Watchmen or V for Vendetta.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean.
That's exactly what I was gonna mention. I was actually gonna say that too, because I was like gonna say how like this is like a good progression of like how comic book movies can be shown. Because like we saw with V for Vendetta, a great film, had a really really nice message and like powerful message actually. And I actually didn't know it was based off a comic book or a graphic novel until after I saw the film. And then Watchmen, of course, which made another plateau of how like comic books could be portrayed on the screen. And a lot of people, they got more interested in this medium and everything. And then when Logan came out, a lot of people were kind of confused, like, oh, it's an X-Men film, it's just about Wolverine. But it turned out to be like a beautiful story about a father and his unknown child. And now this film comes out with Joker, just like surpassing the limits again with just amazing storytelling. So yeah.
Oh yeah. So anyways, guys, that's kind of our spoiler-free portion of the review.
Yeah, man.
Like we said, if you haven't gone to see it, go see it as soon as you can.
Get the hell out.
Yeah, get out your house and go see it. And I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. Yep. Go check it out. It'll really be worth your time. And if you love Joker, if you love comic book movies, especially the darker ones, then you'll really appreciate this. And if you're a fan of film in general, as well as like dramas and kind of psychological thrillers, then you'll really, really like this.
Yes.
So
this film pretty much just like reestablished my love for film and why I'm studying it in general, because it's just that good.
Oh yeah. One thing real quick that I kind of like didn't mention too much was, man, see, like Kevin said, I love cinematography, and I developed a passion for photography through cinematography, like through film. And this movie, man, like it really rekindled that passion because, oh my goodness, it is beautifully shot. Mm-hmm. It has incredible visuals from start to finish and extremely good camera work. Like there's scenes where the camera like pans and moves a certain way that almost makes you feel like you're in that room or in that setting with Arthur, so it's really, really well done.
One last warning, hey, we're gonna spoil the movie for you, so you better click off, or you can keep watching because I need the views.
Okay, so spoilers.
Yes.
Kevin, bro, how did you feel about? Man, I just don't know where to start with this movie because there were so many things that honestly, like, I did not expect, and that kind of surprised me. And like I said, it was just done so brilliantly well that I was just like, wow, like it really caught me off guard. And one of those moments I think was the whole scene with him and the girl. How did you feel about that?
Oh yeah, okay. Like throughout the film with like that love interest, I was really confused because it progressed really quickly, and you see her in like certain scenes there with him, and then you're kind of like thinking like, okay, they're not really focusing on like their like progression of the relationship. So that was one I started being kind of skeptical about that. I was like, okay, I guess they're just gonna rush through that because it's not that important. I felt like maybe she was gonna die or something like that.
Well, not to mention, like, I mean, I don't think most girls don't act like that in real life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like when she was like went to open the door, like she knocked and she's like, "Were you following me this whole day?" And he said yes, and I was like, "Okay, no, that's not how it works. That's not how you guys. That's not how you get women. You don't stalk women.
Yeah.
Okay, you do not stalk a woman when she drops off her daughter at school, and follow her around the whole city. All right, but
Really, that was a really creepy, like that was a really creepy scene, man. Like,
yeah, dude,
it really did make you uncomfortable because you're just like, what the hell, like. But then whenever that happened, you were just kind of like, okay, well maybe she's a single mother,
maybe she's a freak. I don't know. No.
Maybe she's crazy. Who knows? And all right, we'll just roll with it and see what happens.
Yeah, and then like later down the road, there's like another part that that's kind of weird too, because he just like barges into her apartment and he starts kissing her. I was like, okay, I guess she's into that. But then later down the film, you realize, okay, so I'm just gonna explain so the first time I actually cussed in this whole video, surprisingly.
Just say no, you were good. Just say later on in the film you realize it was all in his head.
Yeah. Just what Anthony just said. Where he walks into the apartment, because first I was like, during that scene, he walked in the apartment. I thought it was his for a second, but then I realized, there was like drawings and like little illustrations on the wall. So I was like, okay, no, it's the girlfriend's apartment. So he's sitting down on the couch, and then she walks in, but she's acting like she doesn't really know who he is. So I was so confused. I was like, wait a minute.
She actually repeated the same line that she said the first time she saw him, I believe. She was like, wait, you're that guy, you're Arthur from down the hall, right? Something like that.
And then you were kind of just like questioning yourself, like, wait a minute, was this all in his head? And it was. He was literally just imagined every single scene of her there. And this woman is like super frightened because she's like, this crazy guy is in my apartment with my child in the other room.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, and if you notice a little Easter egg, that Todd Phillips threw in, because he says, I had a bad day, kind of going back to that Killing Joke comic.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's true.
Like, it was really creepy. And, they did a really good job in the film of kind of isolating her character and the scenes she was in away from other people, so you wouldn't suspect, because obviously if they would have put her around too many other people, then you probably would have noticed, like, oh, like that's kind of weird. Why aren't they noticing she's there and stuff like that? But they did such a good job of that when it actually happens, even if you kind of suspected it, which me personally, I kind of did suspect something was up, but then I was, oh, okay, because the way it was filmed and stuff, it just kind of led you to believe, like, okay, yeah, like, this is real. They did such a good job of that whenever it really, like, they did reveal that in head, you were just like, what the, okay, what's gonna happen to her? Like, oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, that was insane. There's, what else is there? The implicate, like how they used the Waynes was really smart as well, because I didn't think they were gonna actually have Bruce at all in this film, but then they show him, and it's really well done. Like, it makes sense how they use Bruce and everything, and I kind of feel like they kind of just, since they were doing a Joker film, towards like, the end of the film when Bruce's parents gets killed off by the whole, what's it called? Not the protest, but after the city's getting destroyed and everything.
Yeah, by one of the thugs with the clown mask. Yeah.
I kind of feel like at that point, the story they're writing, they're like, you know what? We could add this and it would just make it even better, Because they honestly, they didn't have to put that scene in about the Waynes being killed or anything like that, but it did add another layer of depth to like everything that's going on. And I think they also did it to kind of hint for maybe they might have a Joaquin Phoenix play Joker again, even though he doesn't really want to. But I think they just left it as an option in the future.
Yeah, I actually really loved what they did with Bruce in this movie, because I feel like it was just very subtle what they did with him. But then at the end, like you said, with the whole scene where, they pay homage to Zack Snyder a little bit because it was like they're walking out the theater in the alley, and then you see the guy pull on the pearls on her necklace or whatever, which is in the Dark Knight Returns comic too. So it was kind of cool seeing that. But yeah, like you said, they kind of leave the door open to maybe a future movie where these two guys meet, and with the whole Matt Reeves Batman that's going on right now, with the film that he's working on, where it's supposed to be kind of like its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. Like, a lot of people have been speculating, like, oh, like, could this Joker be, part of that universe, that Batman universe? Like, could this movie tie into that? Which some people are really against it because the age difference, because Bruce is like, what, like maybe like 10 or something. So by the time 20 something, then this man Joker will be like in his 70s. But I don't know. I just think like it's really cool that they kind of leave the door open to that. And they actually had an entire plot in the movie, or an entire subplot, about how Arthur thought that he was Thomas Wayne's child. Basically, the way it goes is that his mom, throughout the movie, she always asks him every single time, like, did we get any mail? Did we get any mail? And one day, because she's always constantly writing these letters to Thomas Wayne, saying stuff like, once he figures out about how we're living and all this stuff, and us, because he's a good man. And then it turns out that he opens one of the letters one day. He decides to take a look inside, and what he finds is this big, shocking revelation that she used to be a maid and worked for them. And she did say that, but apparently during that time, they had a child, which was Arthur. And Thomas tried to conceal it from the public or whatever. He had her sign these papers and all this stuff. So you're just like, as a viewer, you're just like, what the? And if you're a longtime Batman and Joker fan, you're just like, what the? This makes them half brothers, right? This is crazy. Mm-hmm. So I actually really like that. And I was on the edge of my seat. But you find out later on in the movie, like Kevin said, that it was actually just all made up. And Kevin, can you kind of go and explain a little bit about, because he goes and steals like the records or whatever, and he finds out it's fake. Can you kind of go explain that part?
Yeah. Well, Arthur sneaks into because there's a showing, like a Charlie Chaplin showing that Thomas Wayne attends, and Arthur he sneaks in to talk to Thomas Wayne in the bathroom to confront him about him being his father and leaving his mother and stuff. And then another plot twist comes, and Thomas Wayne says, no, your mother is mentally ill. She's crazy. She adopted you, and all the letters that she's sending they're all like fabrications. None of it's true. Arthur, he kind of like freaks out a little bit, and then he heads over to the Arkham Hospital to get like old documents and stuff. I think it's the Arkham State Hospital. And it turns out that everything Thomas Wayne said was true, that she was actually she's mentally ill. She did adopt Arthur, but another thing that was a very big plot point of that whole section was that she abused him his whole life, and she's pretty much like the reason why he's been like
he has that condition.
Yeah, why he has that condition, why he's also he's never been happy and everything like that. So that's like a large turning point as well, because he loves his mother and he's like takes care of her a lot. And then when this news like comes out, his whole perception of her completely switches.
Yeah, like I mean, it switches to the point where, and I actually didn't think he was gonna do this. I thought they were gonna he's gonna make it up or something, but he literally kills her. Like, he smothers her while she's in the hospital with her pillow. And there's like this moment right after that where he looks out the hospital window, and it's almost like a sign of, like, it's almost like a moment of clarity for him. Like, now he's free. Like, now he's free to, like, it's like he can, like, it's like a breath of fresh air. And it's kind of like, it's chilling because you're just watching it and you're just like, well, like me personally, I was like, this is so wrong right now, bro.
Yeah, there's so many moments like that. Also, let's go like earlier in the film when like all the anger in Arthur's building up, and then his other clown friend gives him a gun because to like protect himself from hooligans and whatnot. So the scene in the subway is a very dramatic and it's the first stepping stone to Arthur's character going like down, going mad, is because he goes into Subway and there's these three guys, like I'm pretty sure they're drunk, and they're kind of just like messing with this chick that's on the subway and everything. And this is also after Arthur got fired from his job, so he's already in a terrible state of mind at this point. So like the lady is getting harassed by those guys, and then his condition starts to like affect him right now. He starts to laugh because he's uncomfortable and he doesn't really like what the guys are doing. So then they point his attention to him, and this is when it gets really good because the music starts to like kind of gets like intense. The lighting in the subway keeps turning on and off, so you feel like something dark's gonna occur. And one of the guys that's trying to mess with Arthur, he starts singing the song you hear in the trailer, Here Comes the Clown, and he starts approaching him and everything, and then they start beating him up, and they keep like hitting him and kicking him while he's down. And out of nowhere, when the music kind of gets to like its climax point, is you see the main guy who's singing the song to him and kicking him get shot in the face. And then you're kind of like, whoa, who shot him? And you see Arthur is actually the one shooting the guys beating him up. And he actually chases after one of the other kids outside of the subway. And the whole scene is pretty graphic, and like it feels so real because you can see the anger and all the frustration in him finally getting released in that moment. And he chases the kid down outside the subway on the platform and just ends him. And that point was just like, it was intense. It was
very intense. And like, once he does that, it's almost like he realizes what he's done. So he takes off running, and you kind of see a shot of that in the trailers where he's running down the subway, and he runs to like this location where there's a bathroom. He locks himself inside, and you get this haunting, this just very chilling scene of him dancing. It's almost like he gives in to what he did, and he likes it.
Yeah.
And it's just wow, like that. Like Kevin said, that starts off a chain of events following the deaths of those three guys. Apparently, there were three higher class people in the Gotham community. So the three kids were shot and killed, and Thomas Wayne is seen on TV talking about it. And well, what he does is he kind of like, he says he feels sorry for the guys who got passed away, and that he won't let them get away with this, but that's why he's there running for election, is to like, put an end to this, to clean up Gotham streets. And he kind of pretty much throws like the lower class section of Gotham City under the, kind of just like walks over them and spits on them, comments. And a lot of people, well, they take that the wrong way. So whenever they like, the reports get out that some guy dressed like a clown killed those three guys, well, it starts this kind of like movement where people dress up as clowns, and they start like, they start committing all kinds of crimes around Gotham and stuff, pretty much like F the police and stuff like that. And a lot of the lower class people aren't associated with this movement. They themselves aren't fans of Thomas Wayne, and they themselves are kind of like, against that, tired of upper class government pretty much destroying all the communities and not really turning the eye to everything that's going on, and everyone's pretty much tired of it. So it's almost like this revolution of sorts that's starting to unfold. And Arthur, he takes notice of this stuff, and like Kevin said, after everything we've explained, he pretty much is like, not much to live for, everything's whatever. But then he gets a phone call from the Murray show. And Murray, like Kevin said, invites Arthur to be on the show. And Arthur, at first, kind of like, he's not excited. Because remember, at this point, we kind of forgot to mention this, but he was at this comedy place, and he tried to like do his stand-up, and it didn't work out. And the clip actually ended up getting played on the Murray show, and Murray like making fun of him. So at this point, Joker doesn't even like the guy that he idolizes, the comedian or the comedian talk show host that he idolizes. He himself like makes fun of him. He himself thinks he's like, like horrible, bad comedian. So at this point, whenever he gets that phone call, he's almost like kind of hesitant to say yes. And he says, you kind of feel like this thought.
You could feel like the anger from before, like really hit him. Like he thought again. He's like, I'm mad at this guy, and I want him to know what I can do, sort of like feel.
Exactly. And yeah, and like you kind of see that. So he agrees to be on the show. And in the meantime, the crime and stuff like that is getting worse in Gotham because of all the clown people running around and stuff like that, resisting police and stuff. And like Kevin was saying, the two of his former buddies from that clown job come to see him, and one of them, I guess, is there to, he brings like a drink or something because he hears about how he lost a job, or he hears about his mom or whatever. And then the other guy, the bigger guy, which is the one that gave him the gun in the first place, well, you actually find out earlier in the movie that he gave him the gun, and then he's actually the one that got him fired because he mentioned something about it to the guy that runs the place. So Arthur, knowing this, well, he already doesn't like his ass. Like, he really doesn't like him. So he comes in, and you're kind of like thinking like, oh yeah, like they're both there for him because his mom passed away and stuff. But then the guy says something like, well, I'm just trying to make sure that you and me have the same story here. And then Arthur's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now I understand why you're here. Like, you know what I mean? And Kevin, why don't you just go on and explain just this scene, man? Like, Kevin, why don't you go on and explain to the listeners just how brutal.
Yo, he stabs this fool in the neck. No, I was gonna he has a pair of scissors because like before he's getting ready, he's like putting on his clown makeup on. And also when he mentioned how like, oh yeah, we heard your mother died. But he also mentions like before, they're like, oh, what's the clown makeup for? And he's like, oh, I'm celebrating. Just because the whole thing after he killed his mom, he felt liberated. So yeah, after the guy asks him about like the whole like make sure we got the story right and everything, he uses those pair of scissors, stabs him in the neck, then he stabs him in the eye, then he brings him to the ground and repeatedly slams his head against the wall a few times. And it's like it's very intense. It's like kind of unbelievable how intense it is. And the other friend, the one who's actually always been nice to him, he's just freaking out in the corner. This is also a good scene that shows like this is how the Joker acts. He'll casually kill somebody and then be all like happy and kind of like what's the word? Kind of like energetic in a certain way, like his own like way, how he like his mannerisms and everything. So he lets his friend go because you're also having the question where like, oh my god, is he gonna kill the other guy? But no, he's like, no, you can go. I don't have anything against you. But it's funny because also he's a little person, so the lock on the door, he can't reach the lock. So that's when Arthur's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And then he goes up, casually opens the door for him, and he mentions to him
on the head.
What?
He kisses him on the head. He's like, you were always nice to me. And he kisses him on the head. He's like, go.
Yeah.
And then the guy runs out.
Yeah, so it shows that like he has some morals, I guess, left.
I guess in some twisted sort of way, yeah.
So it makes kind of some sense because throughout the film that friend of his was always nice to him. So yeah, it's a good scene.
Good scene. And like Kevin said, like literally like in that moment, I think that was the moment for me that really was like, okay, this is the freaking Joker, because like you said, you don't know what he's gonna do. Like you don't know what to do next. You know what he's capable of at this point. You're just like you're scared for the guy. Like, is he gonna kill him or what is he gonna do? But then he just lets him go, and it's just like that's scary. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, man, like you just feel like the sense of discomfort. Don't know what's gonna happen next, what he's gonna do next. It's so unpredictable, which is exactly what the Joker embodies. But then let's talk about what happens on the Murray show, bro.
Oh my gosh, that scene. Okay, first we gotta talk about the locker room. I mean, then the dressing room. So you can explain the dressing room.
Okay, yeah. So, and we know we're kind of like basically explaining the film for you, but like if you've seen it, then you're kind of just getting our thoughts.
That's the whole point of the spoilers review, because yeah.
Exactly. Spoilers. But anyways. Yeah, so then he's on the Murray show. He's back in the changing room, smoking a cigarette, dressed up and stuff like that. And Murray and I guess like his assistant or something come back there, and like his assistant is pretty much telling Murray like, hey, like, why are you dressed like that? Like with all the clown stuff going on right now, like this is not like, people are gonna panic, people are scared. this isn't a good look, you know, and Murray is kind of just brushing him off like, no, he's fine. And then Arthur is like, hey, he's saying or whatever, and then he's like, hey, one last thing, when you bring me out, can you introduce me as the Joker? And he's like, sure, yeah. And then he just goes. And another thing that was kind of subtle in that scene, I believe, if I remember correctly, is that I think he asks him, like, why do you want to be the Joker or whatever? He's like, yeah, well, you called me the Joker on that clip you played. You made fun of me. And he's like, oh, I did? Did I make fun of him? Huh, okay, yeah, sure, we can call you that. And you can kind of just see, like, you know, he doesn't give a damn. Like, you know, he's just someone who, like, oh, I made fun of you? Yeah, sure, cool. But Arthur, you know, obviously, he takes it very seriously, and you see it in his eyes, like, oh, this dude's gonna pay. And you're just thinking, like, oh, man, what's gonna happen? But up to this point, they actually had some really good scenes. Like I say, there's so many good scenes in this movie, but they actually had a really good scene where Joker's practicing what he's gonna say and do on the Murray show. Yeah. And what his plan is to actually kill himself on live TV. He's gonna say something to him, and then he's gonna, like, blow his own brains out, you know? And he practices this multiple times. But once he gets on the actual show, you quickly learn that, quickly get that feeling like, okay, he's changing his mind. So Kevin, why don't you talk about what happens on the show in that scene, you know, once he goes through those curtains, and just the overwhelming sense of, like, just astonishment that we experienced in the theater. Like, what did you think, man, and what happened?
Okay, so something I want to mention a little bit before is in the locker room, there's also a little, like, hint, like a little message when he sits back down, and on the mirror he wrote, "Put on a smile." Did you notice that when he wrote that on with lipstick on the mirror, the dressing room? Okay, so yeah, that just shows an indication of, like, there's some things wrong, there's some things going on with him. And also throughout the film, he has a booklet of jokes, and you actually get to read some things on there, which are actually very important in this next scene, which when he's waiting to be introduced on the Murray show. So back to what Anthony was saying, how he said he was planning on killing himself live on TV. When he's waiting behind the curtain, he can see that Murray's still kind of making fun of him before he gets on the show, like before he gets introduced. And you can see Arthur's face. He's mad. Like, he's just looking at the screen, and you can tell that he's like, I am gonna, like, get my revenge somehow. This is when his plan changes. But right when they're about to they announce him, Arthur starts to, like, you know, dance a little bit, like what he did in the bathroom after he killed those three boys. So, you know, quick,
real quick, can I just barge in here real quick?
Yeah, man, no, it's good. Just interrupt me.
Yeah, totally. You don't matter, Salvador.
Okay.
No, but yeah, like, as he's, like, preparing to go on stage behind the curtains, it's kind of funny because throughout the entire movie, like, you really gotta give a lot of respect to Joaquin Phoenix for this performance, because he went all out, especially the way, like, physically that he prepared himself for this movie, dude, because oh my goodness, there's just so many gut-wrenching scenes where his spine and his shoulder, the way he moves his body, it's just like, goodness gracious, like, he's skin and bone, dude, and it's just so creepy looking. But right before he goes through the curtains, he starts doing that with his back and stuff, and the TV people are standing there right next to him, staring at him, and they don't know what the heck's going on. But then once he rearranges his limbs or whatever he was doing, like Kevin said, you see him tilt his chin up, and it's almost like this sense of confidence comes over him, and, like, he starts dancing, and then he goes through the curtains.
Yeah, like, this is a point where you've noticed the way he walks and presents itself changes completely. Like, he is now the Joker at this point when he gets introduced on the show, because he's walking straight, he's dancing just like how you would expect a Joker to be dancing, all playful and everything. And when he when he walks on stage, like, gives a handshake and he kisses that lady, it's like, this is a completely different person. Like, this is someone new. This is not Arthur anymore.
Yeah.
And he's sitting on he's on the chair next to Murray, and they're, you know, talking and everything, and they kind of want him to do like a joke or whatever. The joke doesn't land because it's actually kind of offensive. I laughed, but
I laughed too.
But, you know, they're saying, like, he's like, it's not really that funny and stuff. And then after a while, they also ask, like, the whole thing about his makeup, and, like, Arthur wants to, he lets everyone know like this is not a political movement. He's not a part of that. This is his own thing. He's pretty much implying like this is who I am. The show, he mentions how pretty much confronts Murray like you pretty much just invited me on here to make fun of me. And he drops the bomb that he's the one who killed those 3 kids. And that he actually felt good. Like he's like, it felt great killing them. And you know how everyone's portraying them as like innocent kids that did nothing wrong. But Arthur starts to argue and say how like the city doesn't care about them, about the lower class or like the mentally disabled and everything too. So he pretty much starts all the anger that built up in the whole film. He pretty much explodes it on live TV, saying how you guys cut funding for us, you don't care about us, how someone like me is not important in your eyes, and how you honestly just have no care in the world for anybody else but yourself. Instead of using the gun on himself, he takes it out because it's like the joke he was gonna do is like knock knock, and then he was gonna shoot himself in the face. So he says knock knock, and he takes out the gun and just shoots Murray straight in the face on live TV in front of the studio audience. And that scene is it feels so real. It's like you're actually watching an actual like live TV show and you see something like that happen. It's so real and so like dark. It gave me chills. And also like the mannerisms of the Joker himself after he shoots him again and walks up to the camera and starts speaking to it. It was just, yeah.
Yeah, it was really like that scene. Like I've seen the movie once.
Yeah.
And it's been like almost a week since I saw it, but that scene, I still think about it, man. Like it's something that sticks with you because it was just so real. Like it was so realistically portrayed. And like Kevin said, once he does it, you see the lady that was on the couch with the other guy, like he's holding her and covering her eyes, like they're scared to death. Everyone else is running away, screaming in the crowd. And Arthur, he stands up and he goes to the camera, and he's no longer Arthur, by the way. He is the Joker. So the Joker goes up to the camera and he's like saying how he starts talking about how society, this and that, it's their fault for making us this way, they don't care about us, whatever. And something I wanted to point out earlier is that if you watch a lot of talk show late night talk shows like Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, I believe, stuff like that, they do that a lot. Like they do make fun of like the guests, or they do make jokes like that. And sometimes they can appear kind of snarky, but it's what they do, but you got to think up to this point, like they don't know what Arthur's been through. Like they don't know anything about him. They don't know his backstory. They don't, and they're over like, basically Murray's just using him as a freaking punchline. And Kevin said, like, literally, he asked him to tell a joke. He pulls out a book. Oh, you have an entire book? And the crowd laughed. They're not laughing with him. They're laughing at him. And once he makes one joke, the lady next to him says, "You can't say that. That's offensive," or something. And, like the movie does a very good job of exploring this. It's actually one of its main core themes is, how society and culture dictate what's right and wrong, but then it's almost but then if you look at it, a lot of the things they perceive are sometimes they're almost hypocritical because like Arthur said, comedy is subjective. Who are you to decide what's right and what's wrong? Because how is them making fun of him and stuff like that any different from him making a joke? And then suddenly everyone's against him and they're like, you can't say that, like when a second ago you guys are literally making fun of this man. Like, how's that any different? Like, why is that right and this is wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was good. It was all good. And then of course, like you at this point in the film too, you're kind of thinking like, oh, is this the end of Joker? Is he gonna like how I'm glad they actually have this in the film, because then it wouldn't really make sense, because at this point there's security in that building and whatnot, and people saw it on live TV, so like, oh, this guy, he's gonna go to jail and it's gonna be the end of him. But then it switches. The next scene is him in the cop car going through Gotham, seeing the havoc and the chaos that he caused, and he's enjoying it. That's why I also love that the point where Arthur's descent into madness is after he kills those 3 boys, and that is also the point where Gotham becomes the Gotham we know in the Batman like later down Batman, where Gotham is just a city of criminals and whatnot. So I love how it parallels with that throughout the whole film. I love how they actually made it so that Arthur got arrested, because people were kind of be like, wait, how did he escape that building without like running to a single like cop or anything? So I'm glad they added that in. And then after the whole scene where the ambulance smashes into the cop car and they all take him out, and when he's just up on the police car and he gets the blood and creates that perfect Joker smile, that's honestly like my favorite scene in the whole film, is when he creates the blood smile on his face. And I'm just like, okay, this is just like, mwah, beautiful.
That's the icing on the cake.
Yep.
Like, seriously though, like, you know, and man, you know, I've heard some people say, you know, they wish that's where the scene would have ended, or they wish that's where the movie would have ended, you know, but actually get to see that, like Kevin said, you know, like, I actually really like how realistically they take this movie in terms of like plot. Because honestly, it's really hard to find plot holes in this film, because they do such a good job, like Kevin said, with the whole, after the whole Murray show, you know, he's seen in a cop car. Like, obviously he didn't get away, you know, the cops got him. But they do such a good job, because after the conclusion of basically like the climax of the film, it takes you to what looks like Arkham Asylum, maybe, or Arkham State Hospital, likely Arkham Asylum. And Arthur's, you know, and wearing a white t-shirt, white pants, he's smoking a cigarette, and he's in this little cell with this woman who I assume is a psychologist, because she's asking him questions. And, you know, he's just sitting there laughing to himself. So, you know, we really don't know how much time has passed by since night that the Waynes were killed. But he thinks about something, and he starts laughing, and it shows the shot of Bruce with his parents dead in the alley, and him just standing over their dead bodies, you know. And as it slowly pans out, he starts laughing or whatever, and the lady's like, "What are you laughing at?" And he's like, "A joke or something." And as he starts thinking about that, she's like, "What are you laughing at?" And he's like, "You wouldn't understand." And then next thing you know, you see him running out of the cell with blood on his feet, indicating that he most likely slaughtered the woman. Yep. And he's running back and forth, and there's like the people are chasing him, the caretakers or whatever, and it says the end. And I was just like, wow, like that is the Joker, man. That is the freaking Joker. Like that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's so good. Because also I like how that scene when he's in Arkham Asylum without the paint, it kind of shows also it reminded me of the scene that was in the animated film where, you know, like after like Batman's death, and then Joker is like in the what's that one movie? It's like he's at Arkham. Yeah, he's at Arkham talking to this guy.
You're talking about Assault on Arkham, where he like kills him with the glass.
Yeah. He breaks the glass and like slaughters the people around him.
Yeah, that's what I thought of too, because like it's like this animated movie called Assault on Arkham, and yeah, like you said, like he's in the room and he has handcuffs and stuff, and he's like, "I just want a drink of water." So they give him a glass, and literally he shatters it and cuts all their necks. And I mean, that just shows you like how dangerous the Joker is. And I love that they had that little nod there in the movie at the end, because like literally you don't want to be locked alone in a room with this guy. Like, you don't know what he's gonna do, you don't know what he's capable of. Like me at my job, you know, we have to really closely moderate what the clients use and stuff. Like, we have to keep sharp weapons and stuff like that might pose a danger to others and themselves away from them. And, you know, you do not want to leave like something as simple as like a pencil or a nail can do a lot of damage. Like, you would be so surprised, you know? So yeah, that scene was really good. But so yeah, guys, phenomenal movie. That does it for the spoiler section. Real quick, obviously there was a lot of controversy surrounding this film prior to its release. And
a lot of unnecessary controversy.
Oh yeah, very unnecessary. But we're gonna be discussing that just real quick, and then we're also gonna go into some box office numbers. So, in case you didn't know or you weren't keeping up with it, there was a lot of negative press and controversy perpetuated by the media going into this film. Several big news magazines and websites trashed the movie's premise, the fact that they were focusing on a character with mental health issues who's also a serial killer. It was advertised by cable networks like CNN as posing a security threat. I mean, supposedly even the military got involved and warned people of potential shootings, mass shootings at Joker screen. And even the director, Todd Phillips, as well as Joaquin Phoenix, came under fire and scrutiny for, their remarks surrounding this controversy. If you want, you can play that Todd Phillips clip that I sent you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand at least why people might be a little scared going into it?
I mean, I think that, Aurora is obviously a horrible situation, but even that is not something you blame on the movie. And quite frankly, if you do your own research about Aurora, that gentleman wasn't even going in as Joker. That was misreported. His hair was dyed red. He was having obviously a mental breakdown, and there's something horrifying about it, but it wasn't related to it outside of the fact that it happened at a movie theater. But this is not the thing that the movie is trying to represent. This is not the movie still takes place in a fictional world. It can have real world implications, opinions, but it's a fictional character in a fictional world that's been around for 80 years. The one that bugs me more is a toxic white male thing when you go, oh, well, I just saw John Wick 3. He's a white male. He kills 300 people, and everybody's laughing and hooting and hollering. Why does this movie get held to different standards? It honestly doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff going on with this movie, and well, Kevin, what are your thoughts on his negative press? And going into the movie, I mean, what did you think? Let me ask you this, Kevin. Mm-hmm. As someone who loves media, loves entertainment, like as someone who's studying to be an animator and who loves film, how do you feel about people who say that films like this can inspire acts of violence? And are the films themselves primarily to blame for that? Or how do you feel about that subject?
This is honestly like the same argument that's been for decades, is the whole argument that video games cause violence. And I swear the people that say all these things are the ones are first off, for like video games, are the ones that don't even play video games, are the people that don't even like comic book movies in general, and they just like to hate on anything that's popular or good. So it's just a lot of people they just want attention. They just want to tear down something that could make a lot of people happy or interested. It's a waste of time. They were saying how this could influence others to like go out and like do some crazy things, kill some people because they been like done wrong in life. But that could be said about anything. Just like the clip that I showed earlier about Todd Phillips, is he mentions John Wick, how it was so popular, but it's about an assassin killing so many people in a film, but there's no controversy about it or anything like that. So it's just like, I don't know, it's just really insane how people can connect events that way. People are always looking for some little thing that they can like pick at and expand it and make it over the top. So
exactly. And
I'm trying to not be as profane as I usually am. So I'm holding in a lot of stuff. That's why I kind of dance around some things. So
So guys, we're gonna put out Kevin's home address on the screen and send him cookies and prizes and gifts, because believe me, it took a lot for him not to be profane with this discussion. So good for him. But yeah, man, I agree. And the culture and the society that we live in today, it almost seems like everything and anything gets attacked, and everything and everyone gets offended by the dumbest things. You're never gonna make people happy. At the end of the day, you're never gonna make people happy. And when it comes to film, and especially when it comes to comic book films, you're not going to be able to make everybody happy. There's always going to be somebody who has something bad to say. So what you can do, or what you need to do, is just, make the movie that you want to make. Kathy Ann, the director of the new Birds of Prey movie that is going to come out, she actually said this the other day. She's like, you're not going to be able to make everyone happy, and there's always going to be someone who has something to say. So, don't make movies for other people, because they don't never succeed. Make movies, or make films that you love, because if you just make it for other people, or you just follow like a commercial product, I mean, what are you really doing,
Yeah.
And when it comes to like this film, Todd Phillips said earlier in the clip that Kevin played, what holds this film to a different standard? Is it simply because it's examining one man who has mental health issues? If society is going to act this way for this movie, as opposed to something like John Wick or whatever, where they glorify the violence and actually applaud it, then what does it really say about society and the way it treats mental health? So perhaps we should take a look at that. And when it comes to like the mass shooting and stuff, I don't believe there has been anything yet, and I pray to there is, because obviously there's been a lot going on the past 2 or 3 years, and it's just really messed up. I pray for all the people who have victims to this. I think that the media, more than anything, what started off as just consolidating people and telling them to be careful, started almost as this kind of like they were waiting for something to happen. They kept hyping it up, so the media always chasing those stories. Are you really helping the cause, or are you really doing the disservice to the problems that we face today? It's just a really complex subject. What's up, man?
This is also like, this falls into what's been going on a lot lately with multimedia, like social media platforms and everything. Is this whole subject of censorship nowadays is just ridiculous, where there's a reason why media, like different medias, have ratings on it, because if you're 13, you shouldn't be watching something that's rated R. And I find it ridiculous how they put such a high standard on media that comes out today. They're like, oh, you shouldn't be showing this because then kids nowadays will get the wrong idea and whatnot. It's like, well, you should be monitoring what your kids watch, and you should be letting them know what's right and from what's wrong. There's also an age restriction for certain mediums, like medias and stuff. So they've warned you about that. So you need to take that into account. I think that's one reason why like Netflix is getting so popular, is because they're not bound to the same censorships that TV and others like standards are held against you, like YouTube and everything too. So I feel like it's a fresh of breath air to finally see artists, they can actually make what they want to make and actually show like what real life is actually about, instead of like keeping it behind like censorship, and everyone can actually see what like view their own perspective, because like nowadays you can't have your own opinion or your own perception of what you think is right to you or whatnot. So that's why I really like that this film kind of can show what crap, I kind of got off topic, but you know what I mean, like you can actually see like how people view the world, and you're not constricted to how society wants you to act, and you don't have to convey to their oh no, this is too much for everyone to see and we should lock it away and not acknowledge it sort of feel.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And like you said, I think it's a really good thing that this movie exists. It's a good thing for film, most certainly, because film is an art, and you never want that art form to be commercialized or broken down into something that is not supposed to offend everybody. That's why ratings exist, like you said. And I don't know, I just think going into this movie with an open mind, or going into any movie with an open mind, will just help you appreciate the work a lot more. I know when it comes to comic book movies, a lot of people always argue that they need to be just like the comics or this and that. Me, I always go in with a fresh mind, just whatever take this director is going to give us, this studio is going to give us, let me just try it out and see what it's like. I never go in thinking like it has to be like this character, or it has to be like this and this. because that takes away from that. There's so many different comic writers out there. There's so many different stories out there. And what makes these characters so unique is the fact that they can explore them in new and refreshing ways. So I'm happy that we got a new Joker, and I'm happy that the studio, that Warner Brothers, took a risk on this movie, because it literally paid off. And going on that last point, we're going to discuss the box office, and we're going to talk a little bit about just how successful this movie was, and how all the media and all the controversy didn't hurt the movie at all. And matter of fact, it might have helped it, because, man, it dominated the international box office, and it actually generated the biggest opening of 2019 for a Warner Brothers picture in 39 markets, including the UK, Russia, Italy, Spain, Holland, the UAE, Japan, Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, Mexico, and Australia. The final domestic opening weekend box office gross was $96 million. So on a budget of $55 million, this film became the biggest all-time for an October picture, number 4 all-time for R-rated films, and number 5 among all films in 2019. It's just insane, On a $55 million budget, this film in 4 days has already grossed $234 million. And obviously legs and stuff play a huge factor in just how much it's going to make total. But right now on IMDb, it actually has like the highest rating, I think, ever for a comic book movie. It beat out The Dark Knight, and it beat out Endgame. I also believe that in Japan right now, it's had the biggest opening ever for a comic book movie.
Wow.
And that's a good sign, because Japan is actually a big market, gonna probably have really good legs and continue to make more money. Guys, like, this is insane. Who would have ever thought that a Joker standalone movie would make quadruple its budget in the opening weekend? Like, this is really impressive.
Yeah, man, this movie is honestly like one of the top 5 films ever.
It is. So
it's just
real
amazing.
Just amazing. Real quick, since we're about to end this, guys, Kevin, let me just ask you, what are your top 5 comic book movies, and does Joker rank anywhere in them?
For comic book movies now, honestly, Joker would be like number 1. Like, it's just that good. Because the other ones, like, I also see this film in so many different, like, there are comic book movies that I really like that are just super fun, but just strictly putting it in a story, like everything together, that's like story, character progression, the way it's shot, the music, Joker would be like number 1.
I mean, I honestly agree with you, man. Just from like I think the best thing about comic book movies, for example, is just that they have so much to offer. If you want something lighter in tone, you have, your MCU movies.
Yeah.
If you want something darker, then you have your Jokers, your Logans, your Dark Knights. It's just, there's just so much to choose from, and I definitely would put Joker top 5 for me. It's such a special film, and like I said before, I just think it's very, very good for the genre, because there's no doubt in my mind that this movie is going to be nominated, and hopefully it will win some awards at the Oscars this year. And like I said, it's just opening people's eyes to the potential that these movies have. They can be more than just action and stuff. I mean, they can really be truly, truly good films. So that's my take on it.
Well, this is the end. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you've made it this far, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Just remember, guys, we thank you for listening and stuff. Hopefully, we'll have some more new episodes out soon. But thanks for listening. If you haven't watched Joker, then check it out. And just remember, guys, always put a smile on your face.
And also, check out our last videos, or our other podcast videos that we did. My last one got removed from YouTube. I had to re-upload it, so that kind of sucked. But
cue the.
Notice me, senpai. Notice me.
Notice me, senpai.
But yeah, if you like anime, watch our last podcast. It's pretty good. So yeah, putting that self-plug in right there.
Yup. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you guys think. If you've seen the movie, if you haven't, then we're hoping that this
You do?
maybe this kind of gets you to go see it, because believe me, you won't regret it. And I guess that's it, guys. Thanks for listening to Chaotic Banter Podcast.
Yep. Catch you next time.